there, Accomplists. How you doing? I am here with Connie Graff, a decluttering coach, and we are going to be talking about that because, yeah, my apartment right now is very cluttered, as I have confessed many times. If I just moved out of the way of the camera, you'd see a mess. So it's and there's a lot of perfectionism involved in that. So, hi, Connie.
Hi, Jen. How are you?
Good. And we're going to have the links to your website and all that. I think it's already in the event, but I'll send it to the group again later.
Awesome.
Yes, and Connie has a great podcast called From Chaos to Peace.
Yes.
Which is fantastic. I was on it. I will share that link later too. Mike, what? My husband is waving at me.
One live.
We have one person live. Okay.
Yay, hello.
Doing hashtag live. Yes, that's right. If you were here in replay, hashtag replay. If you're here live, hashtag live.
Yeah.
Just because. Okay. Just so I know you've all seen it. Okay. So, all right. So I think everything comes back to perfectionism, but that's just me. But with me, there's part of it is this goodism. You know, I don't want to be wasteful.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, there's, you know, oh, can I use this jar? I might be able to get use out of this jar. And as long as there's closet space, okay, fine. But, you know, there is this compulsion. And so that's where some of the clutter comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think some of the other clutter is, I can't do this all at once. It's overwhelming, and therefore I don't do it at all, which I think is common. So, like, what flavors of perfectionism do your clients deal with?
Oh, my clients. Well, I think they deal with all kinds of flavors of perfectionism. And I just wanted to say, I'm no exception. So hello. I'm also Miss Perfect. And I can't even say I'm a recovered perfectionist. I say more like I'm an aware perfectionist.
Yes, it's a recovering perfectionist.
Yeah, exactly. No, so yeah, perfectionism definitely can come in when you're dealing kind of like you can use perfectionism wherever you want in life. But I feel like, especially if you want to do something, then it comes in, whether that's clearing clutter or whether it's maybe cooking a meal or whatever, it can always creep in. And the other part that you mentioned too is like, you don't want to be wasteful. My clients say that a lot too. So yeah, it's you're not alone, Jen. You're not alone.
Yeah, it's a lot. And I look back over the years when I've just driven myself crazy trying to separate the recycling properly. And if, you know, my landlord wasn't caring about it, and the garbage collectors didn't care about it. I had this one apartment in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, before it was gentrified. So, yeah. And one New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, the garbage truck came by and they took the garbage and the recycling, even though it was separated.
Mm-hmm.
And then another time I put it out the night before, but then the landlord showed up and he put everything into big black bags because he got a fine for being dirty and messy last time. And now you're going to get a fine for not separating the stuff. And I'm still, oh my God, like 20 years later, I'm getting all worked up over this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of these things. I mean, I had a bag of recycling in my house that I wouldn't take out until the night before because I wanted it to actually get recycled.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's taken years off my life.
Yeah,
just trying to be perfect.
Yeah. And this is the big question. No, it's like the same with keeping things, even though you don't use them, even though you don't even maybe sometimes love them anymore, and you just keep them because, oh, maybe one day, or, oh, I don't want to be wasteful. And the antidote to it is really like, what is it doing with me in my life? And you, I'm pretty sure, because you were on my podcast, you know, and you heard of mental clutter. So what this creates is just also a lot of mental clutter. And what often comes out of the mental clutter is the emotional clutter. And in the end, you don't do a service to anybody, you know, not to the environment, not to yourself. And especially like if you can still get all worked up 20 years later or 2 years later or whatever. Now I want to say something very important. Also around mental and emotional clutter. it doesn't help now, as we perfectionists often then start beating ourselves up for not being able to let that go, or for whatever the heck. And that doesn't help either. So,
Or we derail ourselves. We start to declutter and think,
yeah.
I might need this. Let me
Mhm.
stop what I'm doing now and find a place to put this.
Yeah, and that definitely derails you. And this is so for example, I can give you a very valuable tip for that. You could have you could declare it a dilemma item, or whatever you want to call it, and just not deal with it for right now. Of course, as a perfectionist, you think like you need to do it perfect, because some people tell you, oh, you should only touch a thing once when you declutter. It's like, this is hell for any perfectionist, because then you're getting stuck with the first item already. But no, I mean, this is where you can make rules for yourself, what it means to be perfect, for example, and say, okay, I'm still being perfect if I decide this is for right now a dilemma item that I can't decide right now, and I move on. We have the power to decide what means perfect. We do that already. The problem is we often have such high levels of perfectionism that we can't even get there. But we can decide, if we really, really want to do something, we can decide what perfect would look like, and give ourselves also a little bit of slack.
Yeah, and if whenever you're decluttering, you may have different boxes or bags anyway. What's donating, what's going in the trash. To have an I will deal with this later box is not the worst idea.
No, it often helps a lot. It really often helps a lot. Another thing that often helps, or where people also get tripped up, especially perfectionists, is when you for example, you're decluttering. Where should we declutter? Let's say you declutter in your bedroom for whatever reason, and you come across an item that clearly doesn't belong in the bedroom. Now, what most people do is jump up and want to go and put that item wherever it belongs. On the way there, maybe they are not getting distracted, but on the way back, they're for sure getting distracted. So a good tip is to have a basket, what you can call whatever you want, transit basket, transit or transient, or whatever you want to call it. And whatever doesn't belong in this room, but you want to keep, what is not clutter, you put in there. And then at the end of your session, you walk around and you put all the things where they belong. So these are little tricks, and how we can still do it perfect. No, we can still say, yes, I do it perfect, because doing it perfect means I put this in this basket, and then in the end, I'm going to go put it away.
Exactly. It's I call it aiming low. Rather than expect yourself to have everything perfect by the time you're done, have everything sorted by the time you're done. Doing it that way, it's much easier. And I remember the one tip that you mentioned when I was on your podcast was to clean things in sections. Like if you only deal with one section. And I have I've cleaned like half the bathroom counter, gotten that all going. And then maybe a few weeks later, get the other one. And then this one goes back. Exactly. Do that one again.
Exactly. And that is another thing that not just perfectionists, that most people actually do wrong, where they get themselves tripped up, is when they're trying to do too much at once. We always have to remember, so we're trying to do too much. It's like we always think like, oh yeah, I can do this whole closet. And then after half an hour, we're getting tired, because often like decluttering can be very taxing energetically. Even if you're making good progress, even if you're fully motivated, it is something that makes you tired. And then after half an hour, you have a huge mess, and you actually are tired and can't, if you're honest to yourself, can't continue, and this is where it helps too. You do sections, like even if you do a closet, you do one shelf at a time, or you decide you do 10 hangers and decide what happens with these clothes, or whatever rule you want to or goal you want to give yourself. But make sure it's smaller than what you think you can do, because you can always do a little bit longer if you're still have the energy. But nothing worse than being in the middle of it and so exhausted that you can't continue.
And then you have more of a mess, and then you're walking around that.
Yeah, and then as a perfectionist, you're gonna beat yourself up. Like that creates a lot of mental drama, no? So
Yes. And
yeah,
oh yes, because it's all or nothing. It's not like, oh, I've let this
yeah,
mess get away from me. It's, oh, I am a failure.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And then you don't do anything for the next 3 months, and every time you walk in there, it's still this huge mess because you haven't done anything. And this is every time a great opportunity to beat yourself up again.
Yes, exactly. So do you have any tips on how to keep a spot decluttered? Like my bathroom counter, or Karen Colvin, who may or may not be watching now, says the spot in front of her closet has just become this catch-all place. And so she can't get to the closet. And apparently we have the same closet. So what tips do you have to actually keep it from getting messy again?
Yeah. So it's not a quick solution, because what happens is that we have apparently the habit to just drop it there.
Mhm.
And this could have several reasons. That one reason could be the items that you just drop there don't have a home, or they have a home, but there is no room there because there's so much stuff that they can't go there. Or the third reason, like just to name a few, is also like you just have this habit to just, oh, I just put it here for now. I come across a lot of people, I just put it here for now, even though it would only take 10 seconds longer to actually put it where it belongs. So we have to figure out, and everybody can do that themselves, like figure out why does it happen? You can become a little bit more aware. Next time you just dump something in front of the closet, or just leave it on the bathroom counter. Maybe you catch yourself. If the item has a home, take the extra 5-10 seconds to put it where it belongs, and then if you do this over and over. So one of my sayings is a few minutes a day keeps the chaos away. If you start doing this over and over, it will reduce the problem will reduce itself. Now, I want to say, we all have, I call them hotspots. We all have hotspots in our house. It's like a lot of people have hotspots when they come in the house and they just dump something somewhere because they are all exhausted, come in the house, it just gets dumped there. And then it doesn't get dealt with. Or a lot of people have a lot of papers in the kitchen somewhere on the counter or on the dining room table or whatever. That's their hotspot or dumping space. Hotspot sounds a little nicer than dumping space, And so if you want to reduce that, there's you can come from two ends. You can eat the sausage from two ends.
Right.
You can think, what would help me when I come home with all these things in my hand, to have a place to go with it. But it has to be like, when you come in, it has to be easy to put it where you want to put it. And from the other hand, from the other side, you come and you create a small habit, again, a few minutes a day, where you go through these things. Like you could say once a day or once a week, I go over to that pile and I quickly take 10-15 minutes and do something with it,
yeah.
Yeah,
I have a landing spot. Even in our apartment in New York, which doesn't have a ton of room, I had a couple of chairs just up against the wall.
Yeah.
And so one was for my coat and my bag, one was for my husband's coat and bag. Yeah. And that's just where things went.
Exactly. And nothing wrong with that. Totally nothing wrong with that, and rather you have these designated spots. That's what I'm saying. Like if you notice that things just end up somewhere and then they create a problem, create a landing space, how you call it, where they can go. And then you always know then too where they are. That helps too, like you never have to wonder, where is my coat, or where are my keys? Like one of the things when I help my clients is always like, where is the key? So I'm always saying, like, create some kind of a launch pad in the entryway, and then just get in the habit of always putting them there. But it has to be easy. So when you walk in, no detours, because then you're not going to do it, So
it always amazes me that people lose their keys, because for the longest time, I had a key hook, I think, before I had an apartment, actually. Or maybe I bought it on a vacation, but it's from Paris, and it's like a little touristy thing.
Yeah.
And it just hangs on the wall, and it's got a couple of hooks. And so now it's clipped to, like, I have a leash for the keys in my purse.
Yeah.
So it's like, I know where my keys. I never go out, but I know where my keys are at all
Yeah,
times.
we don't go out anymore. We technically don't need any keys, but
Yes. Shoes. What are those?
we still have them. It's like from a previous life.
Yes. Yeah. I realized recently, because being in Southern California, it's hot, and like today it's crazy hot. I have 3 drawers for socks and tights that I don't wear. That, you know what? And if I actually dealt with all that and got rid of some things or put them
Have
in
room.
more deep storage, I would have less clutter because I could use those dresser drawers.
Yeah, then your stuff wouldn't pile up in front of your closet.
Mm-hmm.
And that is exactly it.
Or on the cedar chest at the foot, which
Yeah.
Karen said, and I'm just like, I have a hope chest too. That's it exactly. It's like my great grandmother's chest, and it's an antique, but it's not that great condition. But you wouldn't even know because it's just covered in clean laundry.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it's.
But Jen, the other thing is too, is like, you don't need me to tell you how you could deal with these things. We all know this. It's just that we're not doing it. Also, because we have this all or nothing approach, like that's why I'm trying to drill into people a few minutes a day. Just do something. Give yourself, like as perfectionists, we kind of like rules and how we can accomplish something. No, so give yourself, say, I move 10 items today, or I do it for 5 minutes or whatever. And then, but if you then do this over and over every day, you're actually making progress rather than just sitting here knowing what you would have to do, but not doing it because it sounds so overwhelming and oh my God, and I'm not motivated. And let me tell you, nobody is ever motivated in a healthy way to declutter ever. We're getting unhealthy motivated eventually when it's driving us so crazy that we eventually do something, and that I call that the unhealthy motivated.
Yes, when Marie Kondo's show first came out on Netflix, I'm in my local Buy Nothing group, which is a great way to declutter. If you have it, okay, I'll just give it to somebody. I don't even have to think about it. And a month or two afterwards, people said, okay, I actually donated too much. Does anyone have a blender that they're not using? It's like they didn't think all this, I might need it.
Yeah. But in general, I would say it happens more that, I just keep it just in case. Then it happens that we're like, that is one of the number one worries that people always have. I could give away too much. And yes, it can happen, but the majority of people actually keep too much rather than give away too much. And then of course, it's a little bit like, when you hear like, let's say traffic is in general, like we're going and we're driving a car and everything is okay. And then we have these bad accidents. And of course we hear of bad accidents, but the majority of people, they're driving around and they're fine. No, so it's a little bit similar.
Right. But we wear our seatbelts, we have airbags.
Yeah. And that's why we're turning our brain on before we give the blender away. Maybe we think.
Exactly what we're thinking. And it's also, it is, once, if you do 10 minutes a day and then you miss a day, you're sick, you're busy, whatever. Oh, well, I just blew it. Yeah. There's an app, a language learning app called Duolingo, and they have what they call a streak freeze. So you pay something, like you earn their diamonds or whatever it is by doing levels, and then you can buy these streak freezes. So I have done it for like over 600 days in a row, and maybe like less than 10 days I had to use the streak freeze, but it really kept me motivated. So we need to give ourselves a streak freeze. I missed my meditation, I didn't clean my 10 minutes today. I think that's a big problem for us perfectionists too.
Totally. And again, that is an interesting example because I do meditation with the Headspace app. And I was at 785 days in a row meditating. And then for whatever idiotic reason, I didn't do it for 2 days. If you miss one day, they don't break your streak, but 2 days they do. And then now I'm back to 99 days or something. But I always think like, it might actually be 785 days more. And so yes, totally. So these streaks, they can motivate us, but they can also sabotage us, because if we in the beginning fall off the wagon, if we even want to
Mhm.
say there is a wagon, no, then we may start beating ourselves up already and say, oh, I missed already. So that's where it's very individual. You have to figure out what works for you. The other thing is just also saying, like, the aim is to do every day 10 minutes or 50 minutes or whatever. If I miss a day, it's not that I fell off the wagon and I don't have to start from scratch. I'm just continuing on, and I just didn't do it yesterday, and that's fine, but
And it's
this
this
is where we have
self-compassion.
to figure out, how are we? So, I mean, I can give all kinds of tips, but until we're actually really figuring out how the individual person, in this case you, or when I'm working with a client, in that case my client, how they're actually working and thinking and where they're sabotaging themselves, it's hard to say, okay, do this, it's like
Right. And it's so easy to see that other people are perfectly capable of doing it, and it's okay if someone else missed a day. But for
mhm,
us, it's totally different.
yeah, yeah,
It's no. I'm a complete failure for some reason.
yeah.
It's a lot. So all right. So how did you become a recovering perfectionist? Like, do you have any tips for letting go of perfectionism?
I wish. No. No. So yeah, so I think one of the what helps is getting older, becoming a little bit wiser. The
Mhm.
other thing is a lot of awareness, a lot of realizing what I said to you way in the beginning. Does this serve me? Like, this whole mind drama, does this really serve me? Does it really do something good? Because I can look at the bigger picture and say, the bigger picture, if I wanted to have, if we want to use that word, perfect life, if I just throw my hands in the air and don't do anything because I can't do it perfect, and I'm not having a perfect life,
Mhm.
and again, defining perfect for myself. So what does it mean to be perfect? What does it mean? It's like this. And the other thing is too, is like working with my clients and seeing that everybody struggles with this. Like, some may not say that they're perfectionists, but somewhere in a way they are. I think we have all this all or nothing mentality in our head. Working with other people, talking with other people, realizing that I would be way more compassionate with somebody else than I'm usually with
Mhm.
myself. This is one of the reasons why I also say decluttering is self-love, because when we're actually, and I include always mental and emotional clutter. And I was somebody who was beating herself up a lot, and I'm still can fall into this track if I'm not careful. So then there's awareness again, and just then pull myself out. And but there's no easy answer. I'm pretty sure you, as the expert on perfectionism, you don't have an easy answer either. It's a journey for sure, and it's a journey in self-compassion. I think that's what we have to do.
Yeah. I actually have a free ebook on my website. It's 52 ways to give up perfectionism.
Yeah, yeah.
And what I tell people is, find something you're no good at and you don't care that you're no good at it.
Hmm.
And because people care about being good at decluttering. So that's not where you start. Like, for me,
Yeah,
I can't drawing. I feel bad that I don't draw better if I only practice more, but making collages,
yeah,
I'm fine.
yeah.
So it's a list of all these different activities that, someone will find the right one for them.
Yeah, and actually, like, you had an Instagram post, I think it's on Instagram, where you said a good way is also to learn a new instrument or something, and
Mhm.
already in the beginning you're not good. That totally helps too. I just want to say something too, is like, there is no being good at decluttering or not being good at decluttering. Just to we maybe have to get that in our head too. There is no I'm being an expert, or I'm being good at it, or I'm not being good at it. The way, ask yourself rather, does the way I'm doing it serve me or not? Like, is it helping me in my life or not? That's where I also focus a lot with my clients. Is my environment serving me and supporting me? If it's not, if my environment drives me nuts, then let's find a different way. And maybe I have to find or try out 3 or 4 different avenues before I find the one that works for me. That's why you have a book with 52 ways, and not all 52 ways would apply to me or to anybody who reads this. So we have to do a little bit trial and error.
Exactly. It's a journey, and you need constant reminders.
Yeah.
And there's one thing, a theme and things that tend to not to just get stuck there. In our bedroom right now, there are there's several shelves that are just not hung up. And we're totally gone on. We've been here for over 3-4 years, and something like that. We just renewed our lease, and they're just there, and we haven't put them in a closet. They're just there, and we painted the walls ourselves. The paint cans are just kind of in the closet. They're in the closet at least. But I remember years and years ago, because on the Oprah show, when she had one of her decluttering people come in, and they went to someone's house and they were cleaning out someone's bedroom to make it more functional. And she takes out of it a piece of sheetrock because they had just stored it there. And she's so embarrassed. And everyone in the audience laughed with the familiarity. I was like, yeah. And so it's this DIY stuff. Like, I don't know if we should designate a spot for all those sorts of things, or
yeah, probably. And you could question yourself whether the bedroom is the right place, but if that's the space that you have, then it's there. I wouldn't be so extremely worried about the things that you have in the closet and whether they, like, I'm a little bit of a rebel. So to me, there is no rules. There's not, okay, paint cans belong into, I don't know, basement, and sheetrock belongs in the garage or whatever. I don't think like everybody can live the way they want. I would be more concerned with the things that don't have a home, that you don't use, that are just piled up somewhere, and questioning why they are there, whether or not paint cans belong in a closet. So I'm a little liberal.
And all right, this has no home. Where should it have a home? I like to do a lot of problem solving. I have on the bathroom. I'm so proud of myself. But I have to confess that I have on the bathroom counter, I have a little flower pot, empty flower pot that I use for small garbage, because throwing things in the garbage, the wipes for my glasses or whatever, something small, Q-tips, I throw it in the trash, it bounces out of the trash and ends up on the floor. So I had the small thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, now that's kind of overflowing too. I have to, actually take out the trash. But it's like, I'm just so proud of myself. I'm like, okay, there was a problem, and after decades, I have finally figured out.
And I love it. It's very in like, it's your creative solution. And now the next step is maybe just to get into a little habit that once a week you empty that thing. Or maybe take a bag into the bathroom and empty it in the bag, or whatever,
I have a box of bags in the bathroom.
Okay, yeah, but see,
I just need to pick a day and be like, Tuesday is taken out.
Yeah, and you can laugh now, but I actually have this in place for me. And I don't say this is a rule. This is just what works for me. Monday is bedroom, Tuesday is bathroom, Wednesday is kitchen, Thursday is living room, Friday is office. And sometimes it's literally like just 5 minutes, and I go in the bedroom and I dust real quick. So, and it's not like I love dusting, and I would never want to dust the whole house, but it's Monday, so maybe I go and dust real quick in the bedroom, because that's where the dust also affects me the most, kind of thing, or something along that line. So you could decide Tuesday is the bathroom day, and then come up with these little tasks that you do. And instead of going and doing these tasks kind of like without motivation, or kind of like, I have to do these tasks, you could always think like, okay, how is this benefiting me? And it will not annoy you as much for the rest of the week, because that thing isn't full, it's like, and this is where I say again, like, decluttering is self-love, because you do it for you. So you don't have to look at this overfilling thingy on the bathroom counter,
It takes all this energy of beating yourself up. It's energy you could be spending on anything else.
Yeah, and it takes so much less energy to go with a bag and just dump it in there and do it. It probably doesn't even take 5 minutes. And then the whole week you can just use it, and you don't have to beat yourself up. You don't have to see it visually either. It's but again, it's like, we can do so many things. That's why I always say a few minutes a day. You can do so many little tiny things. And most people always think, oh, that doesn't make a difference. Yes, it will. It will make a difference in the moment, because you don't have to deal with it. You find the things that you're looking for, because they are where they belong, and this is empty. So you can actually throw something in it without it falling out or looking overflown or whatever,
Yeah, and people think, oh no, if I just spend 5 minutes, I won't see it. But no, no, no. I actually took a picture. I'm going to post this later. It's my great shame. My coffee table is like covered in like a lasagna of papers. And we have two snack trays in front of the coffee table. Also a lasagna of papers spread out so like messy that you can't really see in the picture where the snack trays end and the coffee table begins. And so for a couple of days, I said, okay, while my tea is steeping for 4 minutes, I can just sort through this.
Yeah.
And I cleaned off one of the snack trays, and I even found a check that I hadn't deposited.
Awesome. And you know what? I love that term, lasagna.
Yes. I got that from my friend Judy. Her
Yeah.
desk is a lasagna. It's okay that it's messy. She knows where everything is.
Yeah. 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 And so this is exactly what it is. You can do anything in a few minutes. And the other thing is too, is like you come up with so much more ingenious little ideas. Like you just talked about this little thing. If you do every day a little bit, rather than doing one huge purge, or trying to do, because most people, it doesn't work because we're not used to it. Like not even I want to declutter a whole day. And I mean, I don't mind decluttering.
Yeah,
You need to also train your decluttering muscle a little bit. So just a few minutes here and there, it does make a difference. You will notice it. You just have to be aware of it. We have to become aware. How does it make us feel? And then if I do something, how does it make me feel now when I look at it? And the more you become aware and the more you do a little bit, the better it gets.
and feeling proud about yourself actually gives you more energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is nice.
Yeah. And the other advantage is too, if you do every day a little bit, is eventually you will get it to a level where you're really happy with it. But because you are in kind of like in the habit of every day doing a little bit, you're maintaining it that way too. Because what often happens when people declutter, it creeps all back in because we haven't changed our habits. We're still just dumping stuff there and dumping stuff there and not doing anything. And if you do it these few minutes, you're creating this habit that then stays in place because you have the habit already. That's the awesome stuff about habits, no? And then you have it already, and then it stays that way. And again, we don't need to be perfect. I always say, like, if it's 80% okay, then that's perfect enough, you know. If we
and also dealing with something when you're not really in the right mindset is probably why my parents' basement was, my mother would be like, I don't know, just throw it in the basement. And my father is very literal minded. So there are some things that he just went to the bottom of the stairs and just threw. So that wasn't safe. It's almost a blessing that their basement flooded a few years ago and everything had to go. But I mean, that's the thing, is if you're like, oh, I don't know where to put this, chuck it here. Now it's in the way. Yeah. And that's not helping you either.
No, and that's what I often say too, is like all clutter is unmade decisions. You don't want to make a decision. So we're just putting it here. We're putting it in a basement. We're putting it in the attic. We're putting it in the garage. The issue is that eventually, like, unless your basement gets flooded, eventually you will have to make a decision. But even if the basement gets flooded, it could be very traumatic because maybe you actually really have something there that you're now upset about, but now it's ruined, you know?
Yeah, it was very emotional. We got some people, the things that were really bad, people just took out. But my mother we actually went through some things. And even like these big rubber totes, the plastic totes that had the Christmas ornaments in it, water got in them somehow. And so we had, what ornaments can we actually save? And it's, oh, this one that we bought on our honeymoon that was a bird and now is featherless, but okay, we'll keep that. And there were baby clothes. There were some things that, they had to get rid of everything. It was almost, I mean, a lot of things, like the punch bowls. We found the punch bowls, 2 of them. And my aunt, who's helping, is like, you don't need 2 punch bowls. And I'm like, we don't have room to throw out a punch bowl. There's trash all the way down the street. Just let them have the punch bowls.
It's and just to give a word of caution. So if some of the listeners now get motivated to maybe do something, I wouldn't start with the basement.
Yeah.
Because one of my sayings, so I have no rules. I know Marie Kondo has these rules, what you do first and second and third. And like I said earlier, I'm a rebel. I'm not following rules, but I have some principles. And so I would never start with an area that I know has emotional bombs in it. So start somewhere like bathrooms and kitchens are usually safer because they're not so emotionally charged. Start there, because like I said, it's no joke. We need to train our decluttering muscle first a little bit. You wouldn't just go in the gym and work out on some machine like a maniac, like a bodybuilder. You would, if you wanted to go do that, you would slowly build yourself up. It's the same here. And with decluttering, you have to build up two areas. You have to build up your physical body to be able to do this, but also your mental space. And when you have to go and deal right away with emotional stuff, you're just tripping yourself up. So don't start in the basement. No.
Excellent. Yes. Excellent point. Very good. Now with motivation, I'm wondering, has anyone ever gifted your services to someone else? And has it actually worked?
Nobody did it, but somebody wanted to. And I actually, I don't want to say advice, but kind of like, I use that word now, advice against it. Because just imagine if your husband would give you a decluttering consultation with me or something. I don't know whether that's the right way to give somebody a gift, no, because it has so many underlayers, what you could think about what that now means and what he thinks about you, or if it's a friend too, it's the same. And the other thing is too, is like, if somebody wants and needs to declutter, they have to be ready. And just because you get it gifted to you doesn't mean you're ready. So I would actually not do that. Unless you know the person really, really wants to declutter and will be happy that you give it to her. But that, I would say that is 1 out of 100, would that be?
Yeah, I mean, for my parents, yeah, I'd love to, but I don't, no matter how much they say, I want to get rid of this. Have to deal with all this.
Yeah.
It's too fraught. And that's a big question I have, is that there's a lot of shame and emotion, and some people are low-key hoarders. You know, maybe if you keep it in one room, it's still hoarding, you know, instead of it taking over the house. And I mean, do you have any tips for like dealing with the shame and all that?
For you personally, or how you could help your parents?
Or just people in general. But yeah, how I can help my parents. I'm not as, you know, I don't have a hoarding basement. I don't have a basement at all. So
me neither. It's actually very helpful if you don't have a basement and don't have an attic and don't have a garage where you can put stuff.
Yes, so as long as my place isn't as cluttered as them, I'm good.
Yeah. So. Well, you know, there's no short answer for that either. How do you deal with perfectionism? How do you deal with shame? You have to work it through. So like what most people do is they don't want to deal with it. They just beat themselves up, but you actually have to work yourself through it, and become more compassionate with yourself. Think, how would you talk to other people? Would you talk as nasty as we sometimes do to ourselves? Would you talk as nasty to somebody else? And then just over and over. And it's also a habit, you know, like oftentimes the shame is, like, shame on its own is nothing bad. It's just a feeling. If we're letting it be, we can let it go. And just like clutter, we can let it go. But what we're doing is we're constantly reminding ourselves and beating ourselves up over it again. And that's why it becomes bigger and bigger, instead of we feel shame for something that we maybe did, even though maybe shame is even too strong. We just feel like guilty, or we feel like uneasy about something that we did or didn't do. If we're kind to ourselves, it's easier to let go, and it doesn't grow in this mountain. And yes, there is no magic wand that anybody can wave that those feelings just go away. So you will actually just have to become aware, oh, I'm doing this again, and then resist the notion to beat yourself up over it, you know, and doing this over and over and over, and then it will get better. Now, the other question about how you can help somebody else, whether that's now your parents or your friend or whatever, the most important tip that I want to give is don't nag. Don't nag. Don't tell them to do anything. Don't. Rather, when they're talking about it, ask maybe, how could I help? And and try to not be judgmental because the way why we're nagging often is because we're having the thought that we know what they should do, you know. And so it's the same with oftentimes like when you said, can we give it to somebody else? Sometimes parents want to give a decluttering session to their children, or sometimes a spouse wants to give it to the other spouse. It's always comes not from a clean or from a caring space. Usually it comes from a judgmental space, which then makes the other person more resistant to do anything. And if they're like me, then they would get really rebellious and resistant to it, even though they maybe would want to do it. But just because the other person says, then I'm for sure not going to do it. And so this is why I'm saying don't nag, rather let them bring it up. If they bring it up, ask, how could I help? How could I support? What would ideally you would want me to do for you without having expectations or judgment? And they may say, I don't know. And then you could even say, well, let's just explore. Maybe we can explore what we could do together.
Yeah, I think one big hurdle for people is getting the stuff out of the house into the, to the donation center. So I think maybe volunteering to do that part for people, that might be, really
that might be a good idea. But again, you kind of like have to be careful how you're asking, because she or he might not be ready yet.
Right. But
when they're ready, when she's, for example, she or he says, oh, I should bring this to the donation center, but somehow it never walks into the car. I always joke and say, this thing didn't walk to the car on its own, so I forgot it again or something. Then you could offer and say, oh, let me take it. I'm driving by there anyways, or I can take the little detour and bring it and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yes, I had this idea for an app that is never going to, it's not practical, but something in like your GPS in your phone that you'll just tell it, oh, here, I need to go to the donation center, I need to go to the recycling center, whatever. And when you happen to be near it, or you're planning to go near it, it will tell you, hey, take the thing, or but then, you could end up carrying a lot of trash in your car.
Yes, and that happens actually a lot. I had a lot of clients who drive around with their donation bag for months and drive right by the place, and they would just have to stop. And this is where I always say, like, we all know what to do. We're not doing it because we're not thinking of we're more focused of, oh no, I don't feel like it right now. We're not thinking of the long-term consequences that it's continuing to bug us for weeks on end, if we're not doing it. Yeah.
Yes, it's a lot. I'm looking at the time. I know you've got another thing coming up soon.
Yeah.
So final thoughts. Do you have any?
I think we touched on almost anything. It's just, again, think of decluttering as self-love, and if that sounds too rude, then self-care maybe, like we often think of self-care of bubble baths and I don't know, massages and all that. This is all, hey, I love all that. But self-care is also making sure that we're not having something that drives us bananas every single day because we're having to walk by it or we have to look at it, and just thinking like, oh, this drives me bananas now. Okay, so instead of it driving me bananas tomorrow again, I start doing something. So that is, I really, really suggest that you try it, like you and everybody who listens and watches.
Yeah, I call self-care basic bodily maintenance.
Yeah.
Which is good. Are there any questions in the Facebook, Mike? No. Okay, good. All right. All right, fabulous. Thank you so much for joining me.